What's going on, people? Hey, you know what? Normally we go through this little fun, happy introduction, but today we're not going to do that because today we're going to talk about something that really matters, like the things that actually matter. Janet found out about this about 14 seconds ago that that's what we're doing. Um, I can't sit and be quiet and not have these conversations. And so that's what we're going to do. Today, I wrote a little post about the 10, 11 things that we need to consider. And so I'm going to share those with Janet, and we're going to get her reaction as we go through them. But I got to find them. So before I worry about all that, come on in, say hello to our good friend, longtime pal, Minneapolis Bloomington grower upper, right? Lives about 30 miles from, maybe it's farther. I don't even know. How far is Farmington from where Uptown is? Is that 45 miles?
It would
Maybe
take me in a drive if there was no traffic, 35 minutes. Yeah. So you're about
35
right.
minutes? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, I mean, close to it, man. And we grew up running around Uptown. That was a place to hang out. And so yeah, I know. I don't think you went to college there, right? You had moved. You didn't go to the U. Where'd you go to school, Janet?
I went to Normandale Community College in St. Cloud State. So I was always in the Bloomington area pretty
So,
much. Yeah.
so you were there in Normandale's. I mean, South Minneapolis is kind of where Uptown is, and so you're 10 minutes from there, maybe 12.
Yeah, the big thing for us is we were straight down Cedar, which is straight down from the highway down from where everything happened. And so there was a major concern in the Apple Valley area, which is I am Apple Valley really because I'm Farmington, but I'm in the edge. So I'm very much Apple Valley is where I shop and do all the stuff. So they closed, for instance, the Target by me was closed the entire time, the entire weekend. They boarded up places that were right in Apple Valley, right by me. So, I mean, there was a fear that people would come over the river and then, come south, and that's where they would have gone. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I listen, who knew what was going to happen and how out of control it was going to get and who was going to be involved in it and support it and not support it. I don't want to go deep into the sidewaysness of
yeah,
how that whole thing went down because that's not the point. And what my real point is just the idea of making sure that we continue the conversation because we've tried to have this conversation a bunch of times and it doesn't stop. Or it doesn't keep going, I should say. It does stop. That's the problem. I said when I was watching the burning bill, that building burn, that if people weren't burning Nikes, right, they wouldn't be watching buildings burn. We tried this. We tried it peacefully. We tried it
yeah,
kindly. We tried it
yep,
considerately, and nobody seemed to care. Or alternatively, if they would have been burning Nikes to show their disgust at what had happened, they wouldn't have been watching this building burn, right? That's just not how it would have gone down. But that's not where we've been. So I want to keep the conversation going. So Blackout Tuesday. I don't know the final stats, but at one point on early day Tuesday, 14.6 million posts on Instagram with Blackout Tuesday. Did you scroll through it at all? Did you see
wow.
right?
I did, and I saw it was interesting because a couple things that I saw in there was some real craziness with comments on some people that blacked out their profile, and I skipped over it. The negativity has been too much lately, so
Sure.
but I saw it and I'm like, whoa, what is up with that? So because one person said, I'm done following you, I can't believe you're doing this, and she was a big name too. I can't even remember who she was, but
Wow.
yeah, so I chose to not do it because I don't know if you saw my one post, but I don't like to get into the controversial stuff too much in my social media. You love it. I can't stand it. So
You
it's
said I
kind of
don't like being
we're
political. I did. I read it.
we're
Yeah.
opposite. Yeah. So I ended up pulling it the next day because people were fighting in my down, like the next morning I woke up and it just blew up crazy because of other people, not me, but going back and forth in my stuff. So I just pulled it. But so I just decided, like, I hate to say it, but I'm going to not be, people will read things the wrong way right now, and they'll take it any direction that they want to. And so I've been, ever since that day, caused me a lot of anxiety. I was called racist. I was called all these things. And I didn't even have a post about racism. I had a post about, you're burning my city. That's all I said. I'm sad about the burning city. So, it's interesting how different people, but I'm just not one to, because of also the social media presence that I need to keep too.
Yeah, no, and that makes total sense. And one of the things that I wrote plainly, in fact, bolded and made gigantic in the post that we're going to talk about, is it's okay to be sad
Yes,
about buildings burning, and you can be sad about George Floyd too, right? You can
exactly.
hold those two thoughts simultaneously. And that's one of the problems, that we've had, because Black Lives Matter, well, Blue Lives Matter. Well, Blue Lives Matter, fine, but that doesn't mean that Black Lives Matter. And even saying it, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we need is a collective acknowledgement. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to run through.
Okay.
We're going to run through these notes, right? And we're going to try and keep it on point. Like I said, I made a list of 10. Number one, Janet E. Johnson, know that the true nature of people is love. That's number one. There's no
Okay.
hate, there's no fear, there's no jealousy. There's only an absence of love. And so if we could like soak into that and understand that, and when you see people as love and through the eyes of love, it becomes really difficult to hate them, to be mad at them, to want to keep them down, to want anything but the best for them. So that to me is number
I
one.
like that. And, bringing up the post that I had, one gal that actually was probably one of the nastiest. I messaged her directly on Facebook, and I came from a side of love saying, you have no idea who I am. And we turned it around, and she sent me a heart at the end, and we completely turned the conversation around. So if you come from that point of view, then it will turn them from the hate to the love.
That's right. Love's
Yep.
stronger than hate every time.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And so if you can stay in that, right, they will come to you as opposed to you having to lower yourself to them. Right.
Exactly.
So super important. Number two was there's some intentional shit going on. Right. There's some really messed
Yeah.
up. I don't know who's doing it. I got some guesses. Some messed up shit going on. Right. There are too many videos of people not black tagging stuff, right? Spray painting buildings, tagging.
Yep. Yep.
Too many people busting windows that
I
not
call
black.
I call them kids. I mean, I'm sorry, but I have a 21-year-old and I still call him a kid. A lot of these are kids. So somebody's manipulating them, and I don't know
Well, I'm worried that somebody's paying them. I don't care
exactly.
about the manipulation. I
Well,
worry
paying them
about the
be manipulated.
bought
Exactly.
and right
Yep.
and to destroy intentionally to make other people look bad.
Exactly.
Listen, man, I say it all the time. I don't need your help to look bad. I can screw myself up on my own. Thank you very much. So there's a lot of manipulation going on. I don't love that. I want to get to the bottom of it. And I think it's important that we remember that. Number three, accept that you and I have zero idea what it is to live black, right? What it's like, what it is, what it was, what it will be, right? I know lots of people that aren't racist, that claim they're not racist, that aren't racist and don't do racist shit. You're on the list of people that I know that is that way. Um, and I also know a few people that racism is so casual and so interspersed into our everyday conversation that it doesn't even feel racist anymore. We don't even notice it. But you know that you wouldn't say it depending on the company you were with, or you wouldn't tolerate it depending on the company you were with. So I get that a month from now, I'm gonna be dark, man. I'm gonna look like darker than some of my friends who happen to be black. but that don't mean that
You got
I'm.
the big beard going to
Yeah, I
cover
got
half
the.
your face.
That's right. That's right. It's
And
it's
that's
gonna.
white.
That's white. That's white. That's what I said. So it's an interesting piece. I will
Yeah.
say this: when I wrote that, um, I got on the paddleboard after I wrote this original post, and I came and I went and I soaked and I did my little float thing and hung out where I get really connected to the universe, and I was reminded that in other times, right, not maybe this moment, but in other times, the word black could be substituted by people of color, and the phrase people of color can be applied to be so many people.
Yep.
I don't care if you're Hispanic, I don't care if you're Asian, I don't
Yep.
care if you're Native American or dotted and Indian from over there, I don't care if you're Arab. There's so many people. Shit, if you were from Central America, any country in Central America in the 70s or 80s, you were Mexican. It didn't matter, right? And so there's this, and it also now applies to like gays and lesbians and
That's
tranny
true.
people,
True.
right? Their
Hmm.
whole thing is a rainbow of color, and there's Jews that look white, and there's even gingers that are white. I mean, if you're a people of color, it's just kind of, it's hard, right? It can be, and we need to be mindful of that.
Yes. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
number 4 um is stop the one upmanship, right? And that's, we were talking about that earlier with the Black Lives Matter and the Blue Lives Matter, and you can be sad for the business owners and for George Floyd at the same time.
I agree.
Riots suck. Everybody agrees to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's become more than just like you said. There's some further things in this whole that is beyond people just protesting for George.
Yeah, there is, right? And it's beyond the ridiculous amount of atrocity that is way beyond just George, right? It could
Yep.
go, I mean, it's beyond Rodney King, right? It's beyond Trayvon, excuse me. It's the history is really long, and we'll speak to that in like number 8. Number 5 is try to understand, right? Just like shut up and ask questions, maybe, but just listen. It's all we really need to try and do, you know. How you said you had a situation where you kind of turned it around. What did you do? You said you came from love. Did you ask questions? How did
First
you?
I said, I don't even know you. So how, it was one of these things where I had no idea who it was. Like, I have a lot of friends, you probably do too, that you don't know who they are. And she said, Janet and her friends are this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, and I couldn't reply. So because I blocked somebody. So because of that, you couldn't do a reply on the thread. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just message her. And at first it wasn't good, but then we went back and forth a little bit more. And then I just said, well, you took whatever happened, you took it the wrong way. And I want to make sure that you understand that this is not if you remember, who's the gal? I called her sister. I called her my sister when I was hanging out in Egypt, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even look at the color. That didn't bother me. She was awesome. I love her, and that, that's the thing. Like, when people don't know you, but they're just so worked up and they're just looking to attack somebody. But, I felt like that was a place that I just wanted to, because she was in Minneapolis and I'm like, where am I connected to her at all? And that kind of thing. And, it just turned around. I told her at the end, I'm like, by the way, your daughter's beautiful. She had a picture of her and a little girl. And I said, I'm glad we had this chat. And then we just left it at that. And I didn't block her or anything. I kept her as a friend. And we're not best friends or anything now, but I'm just saying it's something that you just have to, I think it's a conversation, but I think she was one that was nice about it. Whereas there's some people that wouldn't listen. Like, their head is just in their space. And so they wouldn't listen at all. And there's many, I can't do that all day long, but it is something that there is some that you could just tell that they're so angry at everyone that you probably couldn't turn that conversation around necessarily. So
It's interesting because as you talk about that, I'm reminded of the Minneapolis or the Bloomington anyway where we grew up, right? There were between ninth grade and 12th grade, I could probably count about 19 black people in our school,
if
period,
that, yeah.
right? And so it was not, um, we were not overly exposed to black people. I came from Farmington, Michigan before moving there, and Farmington borders Detroit, so it was a culture shock a little bit to me, right? And Chris Rock made the joke famous talking about Minneapolis. He said the only black people in Minneapolis are Kirby Puckett and Prince,
Oh my
right? I mean, it is some low key amount of black folks there. Now that's changed over the
It
last couple
has
of decades,
changed.
right? It's what
Well,
where
where I live, it's about the same data as Bloomington.
yeah, I'm sure you
Very, very
listen to
low.
Your White Meets White.
Yeah, but I do just 2, 3 houses up on the corner. They work out in their driveway, and uh the
Work out
guys,
like exercise, or what does
yeah, they
that
do
mean?
their exercise, and then I bike by all the time, and
Yeah,
I've chatted with them, and they're
yeah.
great, friendly, so it is there are blacks coming more in our area, which is great, which I don't care. I mean, that's great. That's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, I think that's great. I think there's a difference between, I don't care about color personally. It's what's the personality type, I guess, is more and so you could be white and be a hoodlum. That's a hoodlum. You know what I mean? So it doesn't, that's kind of how I look at things too.
No, and I believe that about you for sure. 100%. 100%. So that was number 5 was try to understand. Number 6 is speak out against casual racism, right? And I think we may have touched on that a little bit because it happens so damn frequently, you know? It's
Yeah,
it's almost like we don't even notice it. It's so frequent. I feel like we did cover that though. Did we?
we did a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I've even had run into things with my own kids saying something. I go, and every time I hear anything like that, I say, absolutely not. Like, that is not how I raised you. And they would never now, like, we've had like small incidents, but the bottom line is, yeah, I have sat with a circle of friends and had somebody sound insanely racist, and I will rip them. I mean, I'm like, I don't stand for that. And I do agree with, because I'm not one to like push it out on social media, but if I'm in a circle of friends, I will stand strong, so.
I appreciate that. That's good. I think that's important. And I know, it was funny. A friend of mine said something that I thought was racist the other day in a friend chat, right? And I called him out immediately. And he's like, no, I wasn't. Say he used the word animals, right? He used the word animals to describe what was going on
Oh,
in
got it.
Minneapolis.
Got it.
And so I've known these guys for a long time. And animals to me is like one of those kind of trigger words, right? Like thugs might
Oh,
be a trigger
got it.
word.
Got it.
And so I called him out, and he's like, no, I'm talking about anybody that's breaking shit and taking
Exactly.
shit. It's
Yeah.
not it's
Yeah.
not an individual color thing. And I was like, all
Sure.
right, I appreciate that. But then I private messaged him and said something about, one of our buddies is so casual about it. I don't even, and then I felt bad because I didn't confront my buddy directly. I should have made that post to everybody and
Got
just
it.
called his ass out. So next time I see him now, I kind of have to because I feel shitty about it. Coming for you, Cliffy. So
Oh, you even said his name.
yeah, he knows. That's technically not even his name, so it's okay.
Okay.
Um, that's funny though. So that's it. Number 7 is stop bringing stuff that happens in Chicago into the conversation, or really specifically, stop saying, well, what about black on black crime? Why isn't black on black murder? Why aren't we talking about that? How come that's not a part of the conversation? Right? it is a part of the conversation. And the reality about that part of the conversation is that's so deep and so ingrained and so based on so much trauma that's existed for generation after generation after generation after generation, that it's the only logical and normal outcome that would happen unless you can figure out a way to break free. So yeah, it is, that's a piece that drives me nuts when people go into that. You are proving how much you don't understand the plight and how bad it's been for how long when you bring stuff like that up.
Yep. Got it. Yeah. And yeah, I'm not it does bother me when people sit and compare, like, it just let it go, like focus on the issue at hand and stop all these comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you there. And there's been a lot of comparisons out there. I mean,
It
I've
is. I
seen a
mean,
lot.
yeah, and I guess technically this is stop the one-upmanship. It's basically the same
Yes. Yeah.
conversation. Now that I'm saying it
The
through,
funny thing, well, I'm not going to say what I call it, but I call
you
it,
should totally say what you call it. This show's off the rails, kid. You could say whatever you want.
I call it, well, I don't want to get political, but
Oh,
I've always said, I call it, you trumped me,
oh,
like trumped.
yeah. I
Quit
got you.
trumping, quit trumping.
Yeah, it's a euchre term. It's a pinnacle term. And I want to get back to being able to say it for euchre and pinnacle as opposed to what it means today. So yeah, good God.
Exactly.
I
Yep.
also want to point out before we leave 7 that there are lots of people who happen to be black that have picked themselves up and gotten out of it. That happens. It happens every single day. Genius does not know color any more than racism should. There's one race. It's human. It's flipping ridiculous that we haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
Martin Luther
Yeah.
King has been
Yep.
dead for 52 years and 2 months today, and we still haven't figured it out. That math is really bad. It's 56 years and 2 months. I have to
I
change that.
wasn't listening to your math stats, even
Perfect.
your stats.
That's good. I just
Even
got
your
it wrong
dates. You know the dates. That's your thing. Like,
though. I know
dates like
dates.
that. I do not know dates.
That's funny.
That's great.
Number 8. Recognize that the man who wrote "All men are created equal" owned over 600 slaves. How you like
Interesting.
that? Fun fact: your high school, my high school, named after that same guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of nuts? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. 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 What year was that? Name a year that he was. I don't know when he was.
What year was he president?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm really testing you now.
17. Yeah, no. It's I think it was 1800. I think it was
Okay.
1800.
It
So
sounds about right.
Jefferson was the 3rd president of the United States. So Washington served for like 8 years, and then John Adams served for 4, and then Jefferson came in, and yeah, I would say it was 1800. That's if I had
History
to.
was my least favorite subject, so FYI. So.
I had to put a go watch
2021 is going to go down in history, that's for sure.
Jeez, 2020. I hope we get to 2021.
Sorry. Yeah, hopefully we make it to 2021. I'm planning things for 2021, so I'm forgetting this year's. I'm like already over this year.
You think this year's shot? Wrap it up.
I'm
The
done
murder
with it
hornets
already.
can take it away. Speaking of murder hornets, the only thing funnier than murder hornets so far, did you catch the monkeys that stole the lab test from a COVID lab?
I
Monkeys
did catch something about that.
made up a lab tech and took the lab results, the test results. Yeah, because that's what 2020 is all about. All right.
Wait, I do have to go backwards to one funny thing too.
Good.
That it was a rumor around here that the rioters had gone and let all the animals at a Como Zoo. And then people were posting the giraffe on the highway. And I go, I've seen that somewhere before. And Jeff comes in, my husband comes in, he goes, that's from the movie The Hangover.
What the, yeah, like how do we figure out how to spin this up and make it work?
Seriously. Yeah, they were. Yeah. So we were like, oh, are you kidding me? I'm like, I got to bring my cats in. Like, if the
Giraffes are
animals
roaming wild. That
I'm
would
like,
be
well, I was
funny.
worried more about the gorillas and lions. I'm like, okay.
It's time. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Number 9 is stop saying my black friend or my black friends. Let them
Mm,
just be your friend.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that seems easy, right?
Yeah.
Um, number 10, number 10 is have difficult conversations, right? So ask questions, try and learn, be open-minded, right? Stop people from being jerky. Like you said, you put a hard stop to racist conversations in your house or with your friends, right? Do that more and point it out because it's gotta get so conscious that we recognize that we all really want the same damn thing, right? And that's to go back to the place of love. And so
Sure.
that's the
Back to
post.
number one.
That's
Hmm.
it. That's it. That's where we are. That's where I want us to get to. Um, so I guess that's my little manifesto for today.
I think that was good. It's a conversation that needs to be had over and over. I get that. I mean, it's too bad it took all this to get to that place. And will this be the end? Probably not. I mean, what will get to the end of it? I nobody knows at this point.
Well, I think once you really start having enough of these conversations where people feel genuinely heard, right?
Mm,
Because I think that's a big part of the problem. These conversations start and then they just get shuttered down, right? We don't keep along the path, we don't keep them going until they can reach their logical conclusion. Their logical conclusion is this: slavery was absolutely abhorrent and ridiculous, and I can't believe that it happened. I can't understand the amount of mental shackles that placed on people, right? Forget the physical. Think about the emotional, the spiritual. Think about what happened. Now, think about how long it took for people to recognize that it was wrong. 1865, right? So we're
way long
talking
ago. Yeah. Hmm.
2, 3, 400 years it going on, right? In 1865, you fast forward another 100 years. Martin Luther King died in 1964. So you got 99 years right there. We're still fighting for civil rights in 1964 after being granted civil rights 99 years before. And look what's happened in the last 58 years. We're still kind of fucked. We're getting better. We're having some conversation
Yeah.
sometimes. Lots less people are as angry. I think more people are like you, are neutral about it, right? And I would call you neutral. But until you get to angry in acceptance and apology and I want this to be better for everybody, right? You kind of got to go through that cycle, and so does everybody else. It's not just white people, right? We've all got to go through that piece, right? You I think you have to assume that I don't think you assume the apologies there, but you have to look at people and say, yeah, I feel like this person would be an ally as opposed to an adversary, right? The question that comes up is, would you want to be black in America today? And until that answer is a collective yes, the conversation needs to happen. So thanks
It's
for
true.
playing. I really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to end there. And this is completely a little bit different, but our world is different today. Our world is so different today. This doesn't really have to do with marketing, but bottom line is
Right.
it's a conversation that needed to be had. And we'd love to hear your responses to it. If as long as you're not super angry, like, come on.
You can actually
We
reply
can
to me angry all you want. I'm still going to come at you with love. I'll
exactly, exactly.
I'll figure it out with you. but only one of us is probably going to change their mind. I'll see you soon.
All
Thank
right,
you
have
for
a good
playing,
one.
Janet.